The morning sun cast a golden glow across the English countryside as Pippa Middleton woke in her family home in Bucklebury. The date was May 20th, 2017, and after months of careful planning, her wedding day had finally arrived. The house buzzed with quiet excitement as family members moved through the halls, each preparing for what would become one of the most talked-about social events of the year. Pippa sat at her dressing table, looking at her reflection in the antique mirror that had belonged to her grandmother. Her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and, despite the magnitude of the day ahead, she felt surprisingly calm. The months of planning had been intense, but every detail had been carefully considered. Today, she would marry James Matthews, the man who had captured her heart with his adventurous spirit and genuine kindness. Her mother, Carol Middleton, entered the room carrying a tray of tea and fresh pastries from the local bakery. Carol had been the steadying force throughout the wedding preparations, managing logistics with the precision that had made her party planning business so successful. She set the tray down and kissed her daughter's forehead gently. The dress hung on its special hanger near the window, where the morning light revealed every intricate detail of the lace and silk creation. Pippa had worked closely with British designer Giles Deacon to create something that would be both elegant and uniquely her own. The gown featured a high neck and cap sleeves with delicate pearl button details running down the back. The design was classic yet modern, perfectly suited to the country church setting while maintaining the sophistication expected for such an occasion. James was staying at a nearby hotel with his groomsmen, following the traditional separation of bride and groom before the ceremony. His morning had begun early with a workout in the hotel gym, a habit that helped calm his nerves before important events. As a former racing driver and hedge fund manager, he was used to high-pressure situations, but this day felt different. This was about love and commitment, about building a life with the woman who had become his everything. The Matthews family had a long history in the area, and James felt a deep connection to the countryside where they would be married. His parents, David and Jane Matthews, had arrived the evening before and were staying at the same hotel. They had grown to love Pippa deeply during the courtship, appreciating her intelligence, warmth, and the way she made their son laugh. Back at the Middleton family home, preparations were in full swing. The house had been transformed into a coordination center for the day's events. Carol moved between rooms with military precision, checking on flower arrangements, confirming transportation schedules, and ensuring that every family member knew their role in the day's timeline. Michael Middleton, Pippa's father, stood in his study reviewing his speech notes one final time. As a former airline pilot, he was comfortable with procedures and checklists, but the thought of walking his daughter down the aisle brought tears to his eyes. He remembered the little girl who used to climb trees in their garden and race her siblings through the fields. Today, that same spirited child would become a married woman. The wedding photographer arrived early to capture the preparation moments that would become treasured memories. These quiet, intimate scenes would contrast beautifully with the more formal portraits planned for later in the day. The photographer moved discreetly through the house, documenting the flowers being arranged, the final dress fittings, and the tender moments between family members. Pippa's sister Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, arrived with her children Prince George and Princess Charlotte, who would serve as page boy and flower girl. Catherine had experience with high-profile weddings, having navigated her own royal wedding 6 years earlier. She brought a calming presence and practical wisdom about managing such a significant public event, while keeping the focus on the personal meaning of the day. The children were excited about their special roles in the ceremony. Princess Charlotte, at just 2 years old, was delighted with her flower girl dress and practiced walking carefully with her small basket of petals. Prince George, 4 years old and more aware of the attention their family received, was both excited and slightly nervous about walking down the aisle in front of so many people. The hair and makeup team arrived at the designated time, transforming one of the bedrooms into a professional salon. Pippa had chosen a natural, elegant look that would photograph beautifully while reflecting her personal style. The makeup artist worked carefully to create a look that would last throughout the long day, while remaining true to Pippa's natural beauty. Meanwhile, at St. Mark's Church in Englefield, the final preparations were taking place. The small Norman church, dating back to the 12th century, had been chosen for its intimate size and beautiful architecture. Local florists worked to arrange white and green displays that would complement the church's ancient stone walls and stained glass windows. The church had special meaning for the Middleton family, as they had attended services there for many years. The familiar setting would provide comfort and continuity on a day that would otherwise be quite different from their normal Sunday morning worship. The rector, who had known the family for years, felt honored to perform this ceremony for Pippa and James. Security teams conducted their final checks around the church and surrounding area. While this was not a state occasion like Catherine's royal wedding, the high-profile nature of the event required careful coordination with local police. The goal was to maintain safety and privacy while allowing the celebration to proceed naturally. Guests began arriving at the church in the late morning, many traveling from London and other parts of the country. The intimate guest list included close family members, longtime friends, and colleagues from various chapters of Pippa and James's lives. Each person present had a meaningful connection to the couple, making the gathering feel more like a family celebration than a formal society event. The morning air filled with the sound of church bells as the final hour before the ceremony approached. Local residents gathered at respectful distances to catch glimpses of the arriving guests and witness this happy moment in their community's history. The village had embraced the excitement of hosting such a special event. Pippa took a final look in the mirror, adjusting her pearl earrings and taking a deep breath. The months of planning had led to this moment, and she felt ready to begin this new chapter of her life. Her family gathered around her for final hugs and words of encouragement before departing for the church. The vintage car that would transport Pippa and her father to the church had been carefully chosen and decorated with simple white ribbons. As they prepared to leave the family home, Pippa carried the bouquet she had helped design with white and green flowers that would complement both her dress and the church's decorations. The short drive through the countryside gave Pippa and her father precious final moments alone before the ceremony. Michael spoke quietly about his pride in the woman she had become and his happiness that she had found such love with James. These private words between father and daughter would remain treasured memories long after the public celebrations ended. As their car approached the church, they could see the gathering crowd and the other wedding party members taking their positions. James was already inside with his groomsmen, having arrived earlier through a side entrance. The moment Pippa had been anticipating for months was just minutes away. Catherine helped ensure that Prince George and Princess Charlotte were ready for their walk down the aisle, while other family members took their seats in the front pews. The church filled with quiet conversation and anticipation as everyone waited for the bride's arrival. The organist began playing softly, signaling that the ceremony would soon begin. Outside, Pippa stepped out of the car and adjusted her dress one final time. Her father offered his arm, and together they walked toward the church entrance where their family and friends waited to witness the beginning of her married life. The heavy wooden doors of the ancient church stood open, revealing the warm, candlelit interior where James waited at the altar. In just moments, Pippa would walk down that aisle and speak the vows that would unite her with the man she loved. The careful planning, the months of preparation, and the morning's excitement had all led to this perfect moment when she would become Mrs. James Matthews. The church bells of St. Mark's rang out across the countryside as Pippa stood at the entrance of the ancient stone building. Her heart beat steadily as she looked down the aisle toward James, who stood waiting at the altar with an expression of pure joy on his face. The months of planning had led to this single moment, and she felt completely ready to take this step into her new life. The organist began the opening notes of the processional music, and conversations throughout the church quieted to respectful silence. Pippa adjusted her grip on her father's arm and took a deep breath of the flower-scented air. The church looked beautiful with its arrangements of white peonies, white roses, and lush greenery that complemented the ancient stone walls and colorful stained glass windows. Princess Charlotte stepped forward first, carefully scattering rose petals from her small wicker basket. At 2 years old, she took her flower girl duties very seriously, concentrating on each step as she made her way down the aisle. The guests smiled at her careful progression, charmed by her focus and the way her white dress caught the light filtering through the church windows. Prince George followed, walking with the dignity expected of a 4-year-old page boy, but with enough natural boyish energy to remind everyone of his youth. He carried himself well, aware that many eyes were upon him, but occasionally glancing toward his parents with a small smile that showed his excitement about his important role in the ceremony. Catherine watched her children with obvious pride and affection, ready to help if needed, but allowing them to experience this moment of independence. William sat beside her, equally proud of his children's performance and happy to see his sister-in-law on her wedding day. As the children reached the altar area, Pippa and her father began their walk down the aisle. The intimate size of the church meant that every guest could see the bride clearly, and the warm expressions of love and support from family and friends created an atmosphere of genuine celebration rather than formal ceremony. Michael Middleton walked with quiet pride beside his daughter, remembering all the moments that had led to this day. From her childhood adventures in their garden to her successful career and now this beautiful wedding, he had watched Pippa grow into a remarkable woman. Today felt like both an ending and a beginning, a moment to celebrate the past while looking forward to her future happiness. Pippa's dress moved gracefully as she walked, the careful construction and beautiful fabric creating an elegant silhouette that was both timeless and perfectly suited to her personal style. The high neck and cap sleeves gave the gown a classic feeling that fit beautifully within the historic church setting. James watched every step of Pippa's approach with obvious emotion. His groomsmen stood beside him, but his attention was completely focused on his bride. The months of planning and anticipation had built to this moment when they would finally speak their vows and begin their married life together. The rector smiled warmly as Pippa and her father reached the altar. He had known the Middleton family for years and felt honored to perform this ceremony for them. The intimate setting and familiar faces made this feel more like a family celebration than a formal event, which was exactly what Pippa and James had hoped to achieve. Michael Middleton placed Pippa's hand in James's with a gentle pat on his future son-in-law's shoulder, a gesture that spoke volumes about his approval of this marriage and his confidence in James's love for his daughter. The simple moment carried deep meaning for both families, representing the joining not just of two people, but of two families who had grown to care deeply for one another. Pippa and James turned to face the rector, their hands joined, and their faces reflecting the happiness they felt. The church remained quiet except for the gentle sounds of the countryside filtering through the open doors and windows. This peaceful setting created the perfect atmosphere for the serious and joyful commitment they were about to make. The rector began with traditional words about the meaning and purpose of marriage, speaking about love, commitment, and the journey that Pippa and James would share together. His words carried extra weight because of his relationship with the family and his genuine care for their happiness and well-being. The first hymn brought the congregation to their feet, voices joining together in celebration of this union. The ancient church had witnessed countless weddings over its centuries of existence, but each ceremony remained special and unique to the couples involved. The music echoed beautifully off the stone walls, creating a rich sound that enhanced the spiritual significance of the moment. James spoke his vows clearly and with obvious sincerity, promising to love, honor, and cherish Pippa through all the adventures and challenges that lay ahead. His words reflected not just the traditional commitments of marriage, but Also, his understanding of Pippa's independent spirit and his respect for the woman she was and would continue to become. When it was Pippa's turn to speak, she looked directly into James's eyes and spoke her vows with confidence and joy. Her words expressed not just her love for James, but also her excitement about building a life together, sharing adventures, and supporting each other's dreams and goals. The personal touches in their vows made the ceremony feel intimate despite the public attention. The exchange of rings carried special meaning, as both Pippa and James had chosen bands that would represent their commitment while fitting their active lifestyle. James slipped the wedding band onto Pippa's finger with careful attention, a gesture that would be repeated countless times in years to come as they celebrated anniversaries and remembered this perfect day. Prince George and Princess Charlotte watched the ceremony with a mixture of attention and restlessness typical of young children at formal events. Catherine quietly helped them understand what was happening while allowing them to experience this important family moment. Their presence added an extra dimension of joy and family connection to the celebration. The rector spoke about the couple's journey to this day, their shared interests and values, and his hopes for their future together. Having known the family personally, he could speak specifically about Pippa's character and the qualities that made her well-suited for marriage to someone with James's adventurous spirit and business success. Guests throughout the church followed the ceremony with obvious pleasure and engagement. This was not a distant formal event, but a celebration of two people they knew and cared about. Friends from university, colleagues from their professional lives, and family members from both sides created a gathering that truly represented the community of support surrounding Pippa and James. The morning light continued to stream through the stained glass windows, creating patterns of colored light that danced across the ancient stone and the gathered congregation. The natural beauty of the setting enhanced the spiritual significance of the vows being exchanged and provided a perfect backdrop for the photographs that would preserve these memories. As the ceremony moved toward its conclusion, both families felt the weight and joy of this moment. Years of friendship between the Middletons and Matthews families had led to this union, and everyone present could see the genuine love and compatibility between the bride and groom. The final prayers and blessings spoke of hope for the future, wisdom for the journey ahead, and gratitude for the love that had brought Pippa and James together. The rector's words carried the authority of tradition while remaining personal and relevant to this particular couple and their specific hopes and dreams. James lifted Pippa's veil gently, and they shared their first kiss as husband and wife to the warm applause of their family and friends. The simple gesture marked the completion of their vows and the beginning of their married life, a moment they had been anticipating for months, but which still felt magical and transformative. The organist began the recessional music as the newly married couple prepared to walk back down the aisle together. This time, they would walk as husband and wife, their faces glowing with happiness and their hearts full of excitement for the celebration that would continue throughout the day. The church erupted in gentle applause as Pippa and James shared their first kiss as husband and wife. Sunlight streamed through the ancient stained glass windows, casting rainbow patterns across their joined hands and creating a magical atmosphere that seemed to bless their union. The rector smiled broadly as he pronounced them married, his voice carrying clearly through the small church filled with their closest family and friends. Pippa felt a surge of pure joy as she looked into James's eyes, seeing her own happiness reflected there. The months of planning and anticipation had led to this perfect moment, and everything felt exactly as it should be. Her dress rustled softly as they turned to face their guests, who rose to their feet in celebration of the new marriage. The organist began the triumphant recessional music, and Pippa and James started their walk back down the aisle as husband and wife. Their faces glowed with happiness as they passed rows of smiling family members and dear friends. Each person they passed had played a role in their journey to this day, making the moment feel like a true community celebration. Catherine beamed with pride as her sister walked past, while William nodded approvingly at his new brother-in-law. Prince George and Princess Charlotte had performed their duties beautifully and now walked behind the couple, George carrying himself with serious dignity while Charlotte continued to scatter the remaining petals from her basket with obvious delight. The Middleton parents followed close behind, Carol dabbing at happy tears with her handkerchief while Michael walked with obvious pride. Their careful planning and years of love had culminated in this beautiful moment, seeing their daughter married to a man who clearly adored her and would cherish her always. James's parents, David and Jane Matthews, walked with equal happiness, welcoming Pippa officially into their family. They had watched their son find true love with this remarkable woman, and the ceremony had been everything they could have hoped for their future daughter-in-law. As the wedding party reached the church doors, they stepped out into the bright May sunshine. The countryside sparkled around them, with green fields stretching toward rolling hills and the ancient churchyard providing a peaceful setting for the celebration to continue. Local residents had gathered at respectful distances to offer congratulations and witness this happy moment in their community. The photographer immediately began capturing the joy of the moment as family and friends spilled out of the church. These candid shots of genuine happiness and celebration would become treasured memories, preserving not just the formal beauty of the wedding, but the authentic emotions that made the day so special. Pippa and James paused for a moment to take in their first minutes as a married couple. The church bells continued to ring out across the countryside, announcing their union to the surrounding villages. Everything felt perfect, from the warm sunshine to the loving faces surrounding them, creating memories they would treasure for the rest of their lives. The formal photography session began with immediate family members, capturing the traditional groupings that would hang in homes for generations to come. Prince George and Princess Charlotte posed beautifully with their aunt and new uncle, their natural charm adding sweetness to the formal portraits. Catherine helped ensure the children remained engaged and happy during the photo session, understanding from her own wedding experience how important these images would become. The photographer worked efficiently, capturing multiple groupings while keeping the session enjoyable for everyone involved. The bride and groom portraits showcased Pippa's stunning dress in the perfect countryside setting. The ancient church provided a dramatic backdrop, while the surrounding gardens offered softer, more romantic settings. James looked handsome and confident beside his beautiful bride, his love for Pippa evident in every photograph. Extended family members and close friends joined for larger group shots, each person feeling honored to be included in this special day. The photographer had experience with high-profile weddings and moved the session along smoothly while ensuring everyone felt comfortable and relaxed. Pippa's dress photographed beautifully in the natural light, the intricate lace details and elegant silhouette creating stunning images against the historic church and lush countryside. The designer had created something perfectly suited to both the bride's personal style and the setting they had chosen for their celebration. As the photography session continued, guests began making their way to the reception venue at the Middleton family home. The carefully planned timeline allowed for transportation while maintaining the intimate, relaxed atmosphere that Pippa and James had envisioned for their wedding day. The family estate had been transformed into a perfect reception venue, with marquees set up in the gardens to accommodate all the guests while maintaining the feeling of a private family celebration. The decorations echoed the church flowers with elegant arrangements of white and green that complemented the natural beauty of the countryside setting. Catering staff put finishing touches on the reception preparations while the photography session continued at the church. The menu had been carefully chosen to reflect both sophisticated tastes and the relaxed country atmosphere, featuring the best of British cuisine prepared with seasonal ingredients. James's groomsmen ensured that all transportation ran smoothly, helping elderly relatives and coordinating with the security team to maintain everyone's comfort and safety. The behind-the-scenes coordination allowed the celebration to flow naturally while addressing all the practical considerations of such a significant event. Back at the church, Pippa and James took a private moment together, walking through the peaceful churchyard and reflecting on the ceremony that had just changed their lives forever. These quiet minutes alone would become precious memories, a calm center within the excitement and celebration surrounding them. The rector congratulated the couple one final time before they departed for their reception. His blessing and good wishes carried special weight, coming from someone who had known Pippa's family for years and had witnessed their values and character firsthand. Local well-wishers offered congratulations as the wedding party prepared to leave for the reception. The warmth and genuine happiness of their neighbors added an extra dimension of community celebration to what was already a perfect day. As Pippa and James climbed into their decorated car for the drive to the reception, they felt the deep satisfaction of a ceremony that had exceeded all their hopes and expectations. The ancient church had provided the perfect setting for their vows. Their families had celebrated beautifully together, and the countryside setting had created exactly the atmosphere they had envisioned. The short drive through the rolling hills gave them a few more precious minutes alone before rejoining their guests for the reception celebration. They held hands and talked quietly about their favorite moments from the ceremony, already beginning to create the shared memories that would strengthen their marriage in years to come. The reception venue came into view as they rounded the final curve, the gardens already filled with their family and friends who had arrived ahead of them. The marquees looked elegant against the backdrop of the family home and surrounding countryside, creating the perfect setting for the next phase of their wedding celebration. Guests were enjoying cocktails and canapes in the garden while waiting for the bride and groom to arrive. The atmosphere was relaxed and joyful, with conversations flowing easily between family members and friends who had come together to celebrate this special union. As their car approached the house, Pippa and James could see through the windows the faces of everyone they loved most, all gathered to share in their happiness. The ceremony had been beautiful and meaningful, and now they were ready to celebrate with dancing, speeches, and the kind of joyful party that would mark the beginning of their married life together. The photographer positioned himself to capture their arrival at the reception, knowing that these images of anticipation and excitement would complete the story of their perfect wedding day. Everything had gone exactly as planned, and the celebration was just beginning. The reception gardens at the Middleton family estate buzzed with happy conversation as guests enjoyed cocktails and the beautiful countryside setting. The elegant marquees blended seamlessly with the natural landscape, creating an atmosphere that felt both sophisticated and intimately personal. White and green floral arrangements echoed the church decorations while allowing the natural beauty of the estate to shine through. Pippa and James arrived to warm applause from their family and friends who had gathered in the garden to welcome the newly married couple. The photographer captured their entrance as they stepped out of their decorated car, their faces still glowing with the joy of their ceremony and the excitement of celebrating with everyone they loved most. Catherine immediately approached to help Pippa with her dress train as they moved through the garden, ensuring her sister looked perfect for the reception photographs. The Duchess had experience navigating formal events in elaborate gowns and provided subtle assistance that allowed Pippa to focus on greeting their guests and enjoying these first moments as a married woman. Prince George and Princess Charlotte had changed from their ceremony outfits into more comfortable clothing for the reception, allowing them to play and enjoy the celebration while remaining appropriately dressed for the formal photographs. Their natural energy and charm added warmth to the gathering as they moved between family members and family friends. James immediately sought out his parents to share a private moment of gratitude and happiness. David and Jane Matthews embraced their new daughter-in-law warmly, officially welcoming her into the family with words of love and support. The genuine affection between the families had been evident throughout the engagement, and made the day feel like a true joining of two close-knit groups. The catering team began serving the carefully planned menu, featuring seasonal British ingredients prepared with both elegance and accessibility in mind. The food reflected Pippa and James's sophisticated tastes while remaining approachable for guests of all ages, from elderly grandparents to young children who were part of the extended family celebration. Michael Middleton approached the microphone to deliver the traditional father of the bride speech, his airline pilot training helping him remain composed despite the emotional weight of the moment. He spoke about watching Pippa grow from an adventurous little girl into an accomplished woman, highlighting the qualities that made her such a perfect match for James. His speech balanced humor and sentiment perfectly, sharing amusing family stories that illustrated Pippa's character while expressing his deep pride in the woman she had become. He welcomed James into the family with genuine warmth, noting the happiness he had brought into Pippa's life and the respect he had earned from everyone who knew him. The best man followed with a speech that celebrated James's friendship and character while maintaining the appropriate tone for such an elegant celebration. He shared stories of their adventures together, highlighting James's loyalty, courage, and the way he had clearly found his perfect match in Pippa. Guests laughed at the carefully chosen anecdotes while appreciating the obvious respect and affection between the groom and his closest friends. The speech struck the right balance between entertainment and sentiment, adding to the celebratory atmosphere while honoring the significance of the commitment Pippa and James had made. James rose to speak, thanking everyone for sharing their special day and expressing his gratitude for the warm welcome he had received from the Middleton family. His words were heartfelt and genuine, reflecting both his happiness and his understanding of the responsibility he had accepted in marrying Pippa. He spoke about his love for Pippa with obvious sincerity, describing the qualities that had attracted him to her and his excitement about building a life together. His speech was personal without being overly intimate, sharing his feelings in a way that included their guests in their happiness while maintaining appropriate boundaries. The reception continued with music that reflected both Pippa and James's tastes, creating an atmosphere that encouraged conversation and celebration. The playlist included everything from classic standards to contemporary favorites, ensuring that guests of all ages could find something to enjoy. Dancing began as the afternoon stretched into evening, with Pippa and James sharing their first dance as a married couple. They moved gracefully together, their happiness evident to everyone watching. The intimate setting of the family garden made the moment feel personal and authentic rather than performative. Family members and close friends joined the dancing gradually, creating a warm atmosphere of celebration that felt natural and unforced. Children played safely in designated areas while adults enjoyed the music, conversation, and beautiful setting that had been so carefully planned and prepared. The photographer continued capturing candid moments throughout the reception, documenting the genuine joy and celebration that characterized the entire day. These informal shots would become just as precious as the formal portraits, preserving the authentic emotions and interactions that made the wedding so special. Elderly relatives found comfortable seating where they could enjoy the celebration while resting when needed. The thoughtful planning had considered every guest's needs, ensuring that everyone could participate in the celebration according to their comfort and energy levels. The cake-cutting ceremony provided another traditional moment for family photographs, with Pippa and James sharing the honor together while surrounded by their loved ones. The cake itself was a masterpiece of traditional British design, elegant and delicious while fitting perfectly with the overall aesthetic of the celebration. As evening approached, the reception moved seamlessly from afternoon celebration to evening party. Additional lighting was activated throughout the garden and marquees, creating a magical atmosphere as the countryside settled into a peaceful twilight around the continuing festivities. The bar service expanded to include evening cocktails and beverages that would sustain the celebration into the night. The staff worked invisibly to ensure that every guest remained comfortable and well cared for throughout the extended celebration. James's business colleagues and Pippa's professional contacts mingled easily with family members, creating the kind of warm, inclusive atmosphere that reflected both the bride and groom's ability to bring people together. The careful guest list had created a gathering where everyone felt comfortable and welcome. Local musicians provided entertainment that reflected the countryside setting while maintaining the sophisticated tone appropriate for such an elegant celebration. The music enhanced rather than dominated the conversation and interaction that were the real heart of the celebration. Catherine and William prepared to depart with their children, who had reached the limit of their energy for formal celebrations. Their participation had added an extra dimension of family warmth to the day, while remaining appropriately understated given the focus on Pippa and James. The bride and groom took time to speak personally with every guest, ensuring that each person felt appreciated for their presence and participation in their special day. These individual conversations created lasting memories for both Pippa and James and their family and friends. As the celebration continued into the evening, the atmosphere remained joyful and energetic while maintaining the elegant tone that had characterized the entire day. The careful planning and attention to detail had created exactly the kind of wedding celebration that Pippa and James had envisioned when they began planning months earlier. The success of the reception reflected not just professional planning, but the genuine love and support surrounding the couple from their families, friends, and the wider community that had embraced their celebration with such warmth and enthusiasm. The evening celebration at the Middleton estate continued with an energy that showed no signs of diminishing as the sun set over the Berkshire countryside. The garden lighting created a magical atmosphere, with fairy lights twinkling in the trees and elegant lanterns illuminating the pathways between the marquees. Pippa and James moved through their reception with obvious joy, their faces glowing with happiness as they celebrated with everyone who mattered most to them. The transition from day to evening had been seamless, with the catering staff expertly managing the shift from afternoon reception to evening party. Additional food stations appeared featuring late-night favorites that would sustain guests through hours of dancing and celebration. The bar expanded its offerings to include signature cocktails that James and Pippa had selected together during their planning process. Live music replaced the recorded playlist as local musicians took the stage in one of the marquees. The band had been carefully chosen for their ability to read the room and provide music that would appeal to the diverse age range of guests while maintaining the sophisticated atmosphere that characterized the entire celebration. Pippa had changed into a second dress for the evening festivities, a choice that allowed her greater freedom of movement for dancing while maintaining the elegance appropriate for her wedding day. The change also provided an opportunity for additional photographs in the evening light, capturing different moods and moments from the extended celebration. James loosened his tie and removed his jacket as the evening progressed, his relaxed demeanor encouraging other guests to settle into a more comfortable celebration mode. The formal elements of the wedding day had been beautiful and meaningful, but the evening offered opportunities for more relaxed interaction and genuine fun. Dancing became more spirited as the evening progressed, with guests of all ages joining the celebration on the dance floor. The band skillfully moved between different musical styles, ensuring that everyone from young cousins to elderly grandparents could find moments to participate in the festivities. Carol and Michael Middleton danced together, their faces showing both exhaustion from the day's coordination efforts and deep satisfaction at seeing their daughter so happy. Months of planning had culminated in exactly the kind of celebration they had hoped to create for Pippa and James. The photographers switched to equipment better suited for evening conditions, continuing to document the celebration as it evolved from formal reception to relaxed party. These images would capture a different side of the wedding day, showing the sustained joy and energy that characterized the extended festivities. Children who had remained for the evening celebration found new energy as the formal constraints of the ceremony and early reception gave way to a more relaxed atmosphere. Designated play areas allowed them to burn off energy while remaining safely within the celebration area. James's friends from his racing days shared stories and toasts that highlighted different aspects of his character, adding depth to the celebration while maintaining the appropriate tone for such an elegant family event. The varied backgrounds of the guests created rich conversations and interactions throughout the evening. Pippa moved gracefully between different groups of guests, ensuring that everyone felt included in the celebration while also taking time to enjoy special moments with her new husband. Her natural warmth and social skills helped maintain the welcoming atmosphere that had characterized the entire day. The evening menu featured both traditional British favorites and international options that reflected the couple's travels and sophisticated tastes. Local suppliers had provided many of the ingredients, connecting the celebration to the countryside community that had embraced their wedding with such enthusiasm. As midnight approached, many guests began to make their departures, offering final congratulations and thanks for being included in such a beautiful celebration. The careful coordination of transportation ensured that everyone could leave safely and comfortably, maintaining the attention to detail that had characterized every aspect of the wedding planning. Extended family members gathered for final photographs and conversations, knowing that the complete gathering would not occur again until future family celebrations brought everyone together. These moments of connection and shared joy would become treasured memories for years to come. The bride and groom took time for private moments throughout the evening, stepping away from the celebration to share quiet conversations and reflect on the day that had exceeded all their hopes and expectations. These intimate interludes provided balance to the public celebration and allowed them to process the magnitude of the commitment they had made. Local staff who had worked throughout the day received personal thanks from both Pippa and James, acknowledging the professional service that had made their celebration possible. The successful coordination of such a complex event required the dedication of many people working behind the scenes. The band concluded their performance with songs chosen specifically for their meaning to Pippa and James, bringing the musical celebration to a close that honored both the couple's relationship and the community of family and friends who had shared their special day. Final cleanup began discreetly while the last guests continued their conversations and celebrations, with professional staff ensuring that the family estate would be restored to its normal state while preserving the magical memories of the wedding celebration. As the evening wound down, Pippa and James found themselves surrounded by their immediate families for final toasts and expressions of love and support. The successful completion of their wedding day marked not just the end of months of planning, but the beginning of their married life together. The photographer captured final images of the bride and groom alone in the garden, their faces showing both exhaustion from the day's celebrations and deep satisfaction at having achieved exactly the kind of wedding they had envisioned. The peaceful countryside setting provided a perfect backdrop for these last formal photographs. House guests who would remain overnight settled into accommodations that had been prepared throughout the estate, allowing the celebration to continue informally for those closest to the family. These extended conversations and connections would continue the celebration into the following day for the most intimate members of the wedding party. Pippa and James retreated to their private quarters as the last guest departed, and the final cleanup was completed. Their wedding day had been everything they had hoped for, and more, combining the formal beauty of traditional ceremony with the warm intimacy of family celebration. The success of their wedding reflected not just careful planning, but the genuine love and support of the community they had built together through their individual lives and their relationship. Every element of the day had worked together to create exactly the kind of beginning to married life that would sustain them through all the adventures and challenges that lay ahead. As they reflected on the day's events, both Pippa and James felt deep gratitude for the family and friends who had shared their celebration, the beautiful setting that had provided the perfect backdrop for their vows, and the love that had brought them to this moment, and would carry them forward into their new life together as husband and wife.